My name is Patricia Torres, and I'm 24 years old. If you asked anyone who knows me, they'd probably say the same thing: Patricia is dependable. The kind of person who always shows up on time, remembers birthdays, and stays late to help when others don't. It's not glamorous. I've never been the loudest one in the room, never the type to turn heads when I walk in. But I believed, maybe foolishly, that steadiness was its own kind of strength. When I started dating Steven, I thought he saw that too. He used to tell me, "You make me feel safe," or "I've never met someone I can rely on the way I rely on you." Those words meant the world to me. I wasn't rich, I wasn't the life of the party, but I was there for him through every crisis, every breakdown, every setback. When his car broke down senior year, I dipped into my savings to cover the repairs. When he failed a class, I stayed up with him until 3 in the morning, quizzing him with flashcards. When he couldn't make rent for 2 months, I wrote the check pretending it didn't hurt. That's who I was: the safety net, the steady hand, the woman who didn't let him fall. But lately, something had changed. Over the past 6 months, Stephen had developed this restless edge, like being with me wasn't enough anymore. It started small little comments about how his friends' girlfriends surprised them with weekend trips or posted adventurous photos on Instagram. I brushed it off. Everyone compares themselves sometimes, right? But then the comments sharpened. When I suggested a movie night, he sighed. "We always do the same thing." When I cooked dinner, he'd say, "It's nice, just not exciting." And one night, when I mentioned wanting to save up for a house someday, he actually laughed. "God, Patricia, you sound like a 40-year-old suburban mom already." That one cut deep. But I didn't argue. I told myself he was stressed, maybe overwhelmed by how serious things were getting. People have phases. You don't throw away 3 years over mood swings. So when our anniversary came around, I thought, maybe if I remind him how much I care, he'll remember what we have is worth keeping. I booked a reservation at a nice downtown restaurant. Not the fanciest place in the city, but certainly nicer than our usual spots. I ironed my dress, brought flowers, even left a bottle of his favorite whiskey in his apartment for when we got back. When I knocked on his door that evening, bouquet in hand, he opened it, dressed fine, yes, but with a face that didn't brighten. "Roses," he said flatly. I forced a smile. "Yeah, happy anniversary." He took them, muttered thanks, and set them on the counter without so much as a glance. On the drive over, he barely looked up from his phone, chuckling at memes his friends posted. I tried to ask about his week. He answered with one-word replies. My fingers tightened on the steering wheel, but I told myself, he'll warm up once we get there. The restaurant was softly lit candles flickering between us. It should have felt romantic. Instead, Stephen sighed like he was already bored. "This place is fine," he said, scanning the menu. "I thought you'd like it," I said gently. "It's got great reviews." "Sure," he muttered. His phone lit up again. The server arrived cheerful, taking our drink orders. Stephen asked for a flashy cocktail he'd seen trending on TikTok. I asked for water. When the server walked away, I leaned forward, searching his distracted eyes. 3 years, huh? Hard to believe it's been that long." "Yeah," he said without looking up. "Time flies." I tried again. "Remember our first date, that little diner with the sticky booths?" He smirked. "Honestly, I only went because my roommate bailed. Didn't think it'd turn into anything serious." He said it like a joke, but it landed in my chest like a stone. I forced another smile and lowered my eyes to the menu. When the drinks came, I raised my glass. To 3 years together. Stephen clinked his lazily against mine and took a sip without meeting my gaze. So I asked softly, "Where do you see us in another 3 years?" That was the wrong question. He laughed, loud, sharp, echoing across the room. Heads turned. Heat rushed to my face as he shook his head. "Relax, Patricia. I didn't even think we'd make it this long. You're just a phase. Come on. Did you really think I was going to marry you?" The words hit me like glass shattering. For a heartbeat, I thought I misheard what I whispered. He leaned back, voice dripping with casual cruelty. "Don't look so shocked. You're safe, predictable, reliable. That's great. For a while. But it's not forever. You're the stepping stone before a man figures out what he really wants." Silence. The couple at the next table stopped eating, pretending not to listen. My stomach twisted. I wanted to fight back to remind him of everything I'd sacrificed, but my throat closed around the words. The server arrived with our appetizers, oblivious, setting the plates down cheerfully. Stephen speared a bite like nothing had happened. "Not bad," he said, chewing casually. I sat frozen, staring at the man I thought I knew, realizing he had just reduced 3 years of love into a placeholder role and done it in public. When the check came, I didn't hesitate. I slipped my card into the folder, signed, and thanked the server politely. Stephen didn't even glance at the bill. Outside, the cool night air stung my face, but it didn't soothe me. I drove him home in silence. He scrolled on his phone again, humming. At his apartment, he finally looked at me. "You're awfully quiet." I gripped the steering wheel. "Yeah." He rolled his eyes. "Don't be dramatic. I was just being honest." I didn't respond. I waited until he got out, then drove away. My hands shook, but my face stayed calm. That calm, I realized, was the only thing I had left. That night, I barely slept. His words looped in my head like a cruel chorus. "You're just a phase, a stepping stone. Did you really think I'd marry you?" I thought I knew heartbreak before. I hadn't. This was different. This was betrayal, clean, sharp, and unforgettable. I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, his words echoed, each syllable heavier than the last. "You're just a phase, a stepping stone. Did you really think I'd marry you?" At dawn, I sat on the edge of my bed, my hands gripping the sheets. I felt hollow, but beneath the hollowness, something burned, not anger exactly, but the need for clarity. If I let his cruelty hang in the air unchallenged, he would twist it later, call it a joke, say I was too sensitive. I needed to hear him say it again directly without the cover of laughter. So I drove to his apartment. Stephen opened the door in sweatpants, coffee in hand, phone in the other. He looked at me with mild surprise, like I was a delivery he hadn't ordered. "Wow, Patricia, early. I figured you'd still be sulking." "I'm not sulking," I said, my voice flat. He shrugged and stepped aside. "Okay, Broody, come in then." I sat on the couch. He flopped into the armchair opposite, scrolling lazily. For a moment, the silence stretched. I studied him, his hair still mussed from sleep, his smirk already creeping in. "Stephen," I said quietly, "last night, what you said at dinner, did you mean it?" He sipped his coffee, eyes flicking toward me with casual amusement. "You're really hung up on that, huh? Answer me." My voice was steadier than I expected. He leaned back, setting his mug on the table, and spread his arms like he was addressing a jury. "Look, Patricia, you're nice. You've been good to me. But you're safe, predictable. Being with you is easy, too easy. And I don't want easy. Not right now." I swallowed hard. "Easy. You mean stability, consistency. That's what makes a partnership last." "Not for me." He shook his head, almost pitying. "I'm 24, not 40. I don't want to play house with someone who already sounds like a mom planning retirement. I want adventure. I want someone who excites me." My chest tightened. So what was I then? A placeholder until someone more exciting shows up. He chuckled. "Exactly. Finally you get it." The room tilted. I stared at him, waiting for the smirk to vanish, for him to say he didn't mean it. But it stayed. Casual. Cruel. "Do you hear yourself?" I whispered. "Do you realize how cruel that sounds?" Stephen rolled his eyes. "Don't make this a big moral crisis. It's just reality. Good women like you. They're the ones men settle for later, when they're ready to be bored. But not now. I want passion, chaos, fire. Your comfort. And comfort is dull." My hands curled into fists in my lap. My voice dropped to a whisper. "So you wanted me to bankroll your life, hold you together, keep you comfortable, while you kept waiting for someone more exciting." He didn't even flinch. Pretty much. Something inside me cracked, not with rage, but with cold, cutting clarity. "You know what the worst part is?" I said softly. He tilted his head, curious. "I believed in us. I thought we had something worth building. I gave you 3 years of loyalty, and you sit here telling me I was just filler between girlfriends." Stephen smirked again, like a teacher correcting a student. "That's your mistake, Patricia, not mine. I never promised forever." I felt my heart squeeze. "No." "But you let me think it. You let me pour everything I had into you, and you took it." For the first time, a flicker of discomfort crossed his face, but he smothered it quickly. "Don't be bitter. You'll find someone who loves how safe you are. Probably some nice teacher or accountant or whatever. That's your lane, not me." I stood up slowly, my voice calm but firm. "You're right." He raised an eyebrow. "I am—" "Yeah," I said steady. "You're not my forever. You're not even my right now anymore." The smirk faltered. His tone sharpened. "What do you mean?" "I mean, we're done." He sat forward, incredulous. "You're really throwing away 3 years over one conversation?" I met his gaze. "No, Stephen, you threw it away. I'm just finally accepting it." The silence that followed was thick. His jaw tightened, but I didn't wait for him to respond. I turned, walked to the door, and opened it. For the first time in 3 years, my back felt light as I stepped out. And yet, as I pulled the door shut behind me, the ache in my chest told me one thing: this wasn't the end of the story. Not yet. I thought walking out of Stephen's apartment would bring relief. In a way, it did, like untying a knot that had cut off circulation for too long. But when I got home, the silence pressed in. My phone lit up on the counter. A message. Stephen lol. So you're really doing this over me being honest, Wild. Your loss. I stared at it, heart racing. My thumb hovered over the screen, but I forced myself to put the phone face down. Responding would only give him power. The next morning, another one came. Stephen, hey, just so you know, I'm totally fine. Got plans tonight with Sophia. Don't stress about me. Sophia. A name he'd mentioned once in passing, now weaponized. My jaw clenched. He wanted me jealous, wanted me to stew while he flaunted his upgrade. I pressed my lips together and said nothing. Days passed, the messages multiplied. Stephen, funny story. Sophia actually gets me. She's not afraid of life like you, Stephen. Patricia, can we talk? I think I came off harsher than I meant. You know I care about you, Stephen. Wow. After everything I did for you, you can't even reply, pathetic. It was like watching him cycle through emotions in real time, smug, needy, pleading, then bitter. I muted his number. But silence has its own weight. At night alone in my apartment, his words crept back into my head. You're just a stepping stone. I replayed all the nights I'd stayed up quizzing him, the money I'd spent, the steady hand I'd offered without question. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake him until he understood what he'd thrown away. Instead, I picked up a pen. I started journaling, not polished entries, just messy, raw fragments. Why did I let myself be used? Why does silence hurt more than anger? Each page bled with questions I couldn't answer, but it was something, a place to put the weight. A week later, I found a note slipped under my door. I miss you. I miss us. Don't let one stupid fight ruin everything. You're the only one who ever really treated me right. Please call me. Stephen. The handwriting was rushed, desperate. For a split second, my chest tightened, the old instinct to fix, to comfort. But then I remembered the restaurant. His smirk. His laugh. You're just a phase. I folded the note in half and dropped it straight into the trash. The silence that followed wasn't empty this time. It was firm, chosen. But Stephen wasn't the type to stay quiet for long. One evening, leaving work, I spotted him leaning against his car near the parking lot entrance. My stomach dropped. He straightened when he saw me, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Patricia, finally. I tightened my grip on my bag. What are you doing here? We need to talk. No, I said firmly, we don't. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. So that's it. 3 years, and you're just done. I met his gaze calm but cold. You were done long before I walked out. For the first time, his mask cracked. His jaw clenched. His posture stiffened. You're twisting my words. No, I said evenly. You know exactly what you said. And so do I. I walked past him without another glance, the sound of my heels echoing against the pavement. Behind me, I heard him call after me, his voice tinged with something unfamiliar. Not confidence, not amusement. Desperation. But I didn't turn back. For the first time, I realized Stephen wasn't in control anymore. I was. Silence was supposed to be my shield. But with Stephen, silence only provoked escalation. A few days after the parking lot, I was at my favorite Saturday cafe, the one place that usually felt like sanctuary. The barista knew my order by heart. The smell of roasted beans soothed my nerves. But when I stepped outside with my cup there, he was leaning against the brick wall like he owned the block. Patricia, he said, straightening. His sunglasses hid his eyes, but his smirk was unmistakable. I stopped short. Seriously. We need to talk, he said again, like a line rehearsed too many times. No, I repeated, voice clipped. We don't. He stepped into my path, lowering his glasses. For the first time, I saw the cracks. The puffiness under his eyes, the way his jaw clenched too tightly. He wasn't the cool, dismissive man from the restaurant anymore. He looked worn. Patricia listened, his voice dropped rougher now. Sophia wasn't what I thought. It's all chaos with her lies, drama games. You were different. You were real. I raised an eyebrow. So now I'm real funny. Last week I was boring. He flinched, but recovered quickly. I messed up. I didn't mean it the way it came out. I thought I wanted fire, but it just burned everything down. With you, I never had to question if you cared. I stared at him, heart steady. No, you never questioned it because you knew I'd always be there. You loved the comfort I gave you, not me. There's a difference. For the first time, his smirk faltered. His hand tightened around his cup until the cardboard crumpled. You think you're too good for me now? I shook my head. No, I just know I'm too good to be your placeholder. I walked past him, my voice calm but final. Goodbye, Stephen. His silence behind me was louder than any insult he could have thrown. 2 weeks later, I went to a mutual friend's birthday party. Sam was one of those people everyone showed up for, which meant I knew Stephen would likely be there. My stomach twisted as I approached the door, but I told myself I'm not running anymore. He doesn't get to haunt me out of my own life. The house buzzed with laughter music spilling into the night air. I was greeted warmly hugged by people I hadn't seen in weeks. For the first time, I felt lighter. I wasn't the woman defined by heartbreak. I was Patricia again. And then I saw him. Stephen stood across the room nursing a drink, trying too hard to look casual. His posture stiff, his smile forced. He caught sight of me, froze, then straightened his shoulders like he was bracing for battle. I felt the shift in the room, whispers, glances. Everyone knew. He crossed the space, stopping in front of me. His voice was soft, rehearsed, but trembling at the edges. "Patricia, can we talk?" I held my glass steady. "What is there to talk about?" "Not here." His eyes darted to the people watching. "Please, just step outside with me for a minute." I shook my head. "If you've got something to say, say it." The mask cracked. His voice rose sharper, desperate. "Fine. I was wrong. Okay about everything. About you. About us." I thought I wanted someone exciting, someone different. But all I got was chaos. You were the only one who ever cared, the only one who showed up. The room went quieter. A few people pretended not to listen. My heart pounded, but I didn't waver. Stephen's eyes glistened. "Please, Patricia, I just want another chance. We can start fresh. I swear I won't take you for granted this time." I studied him not with anger, not with longing, but clarity. "No, Stephen." His voice cracked. "Why not, after everything we had?" I cut him off. "Because what we had died the night you told me I was just a phase, a stepping stone. Remember?" His lips parted like he might deny it, but he saw in my eyes that I remembered every word. I continued calm, steady, unshaken. "I gave you everything I had. Time, loyalty, love. And you laughed in my face for it. You wanted chaos adventure. You found it. But that's not my world. Not anymore." His face tightened, color rising. "So that's it. You're just done." I offered a small, polite smile. "I've been done. I just didn't realize it until now." For the final time, I turned away. Behind me, he stood alone, stripped of his swagger, and for once, nobody rushed to stand by his side. I wasn't his backup plan anymore. I wasn't his safety net. I was free. After that party, word traveled fast. I didn't need to speak about what happened. People saw it with their own eyes. Stephen's image, once polished and magnetic, began to crumble. Mutual friends who used to laugh at his jokes now rolled their eyes when his name came up. I heard whispers, how his fling with Sophia ended in chaos, how she caught him messaging other girls, how their screaming matches spilled into public. One evening over drinks, my friend Jenna leaned in smirking. "So, did you hear Stephen's thing with Sophia blew up already?" I kept my face neutral, swirling the ice in my glass. "Oh, total disaster," Jenna said. She blasted him online for being a liar. Said he's immature, selfish, only cares about himself. Half her posts are cryptic quotes, the other half are digs at him. I smiled faintly, but inside something shifted. Not triumph, exactly, more like relief. For once the truth was visible to everyone else, not just me. 2 weeks later, I attended another gathering. Music pulsed, laughter echoed, and for the first time in months, I felt genuinely present. I laughed too loud at inside jokes, clinked glasses with old friends, and caught myself smiling without forcing it. Then across the room, I felt eyes on me. "Stephen." He stood near the corner, drink in hand, his shoulders slumped just slightly. His once cocky stance had softened into something smaller, almost uncertain. When our eyes met, he straightened, plastering on that familiar smirk, but it flickered weak. I turned back to my conversation deliberately unbothered, but moments later he was beside me. "Patricia," he said, voice softer now, almost pleading. "Can we talk?" I didn't flinch. We already did. "Not really," he insisted. His eyes darted around at the watching faces. "Just, please, step outside with me." I shook my head. "If you have something to say, you can say it here."